Andrew Tate was just released from jail, and after being locked up for 3 months, he is looking huge. But the secret to how he got so big is both incredibly simple and extremely profound. After being locked up, Andrew Tate naturally had a lot of spare time on his hands. But instead of getting overwhelmed by negative emotions and stress over things that were beyond his control, he decided to concentrate on the things that were within his control and could help him improve his situation. In this case, he decided to strengthen his faith and his mind by studying the Quran, and strengthen his body by doing lots and lots of push-ups.
I was in jail. I did 7,417 push-ups. I will focus on the push-ups and I will read the Quran.
Now, in just a few words about how he spent his time in prison, Andrew Tate taught us all a very powerful life lesson, that when you're in a tough spot, you should always focus your energy on the things within your control, instead of stressing about the things that aren't. By focusing our energy or even blaming our poor situations in life on the factors outside of our control, like our genetics, how our parents raised us, or even our luck generally, we become victims to these outside factors and lose all agency in the direction of our own lives. But by focusing on the things that are actually in our control to change, we can make the most of our situations and the opportunities presented to us. And by doing so, we get back into the driver's seat and take control of our lives. And that's exactly what Andrew Tate did. Instead of crying about being put in jail, he spent his time in prison strengthening his faith by reading the Quran and strengthening his body by doing push-ups. But life lessons aside, how was he able to get so much bigger while locked up? And did he really gain a substantial amount of muscle just from doing push-ups? To answer these questions, there are 4 things we need to consider. But before we do, please leave this video a like, it really helps me out a lot. So first thing, Andrew Tate was already a pretty big guy going into prison. He was a professional kickboxer for years, and during that time, he built an incredible base of muscle mass, in which he has been able to maintain and slowly add to over the past few years while building his online empire. And for someone that already has such a well-developed physique, they're not going to be able to put on a substantial amount of muscle in just 3 months, especially if their training and diet isn't ideal because of the whole prison situation. Second thing, a big part of the reason why he looks so much bigger is because he's clearly put on a solid amount of body fat. If you compare his photos of his physique before and after his time in prison, you can tell that he used to be much leaner and much more well-defined than he is now. I honestly think he looks great and healthy in both photos, so I'm not saying this to put him down, but it's an important thing to note if we're trying to figure out just how much muscle he actually put on during his time in prison. But if we ignore the extra body fat, his actual muscles do look bigger, so clearly he's gained some amount of muscle mass, right? Well, that leads us to the third thing. To gain body fat, which he clearly has, you need to be in a calorie surplus. And when you're in a calorie surplus, your body will have a large amount of glucose kicking around, which it will store in your skeletal muscles in the form of glycogen. And when our muscles are full of glycogen, they're going to appear larger and fuller, which could be a big part of the reason why Andrew looks so much bigger in these videos. Add this with the fact that Andrew could have had a muscle pump during this video and that the room he was in had pretty heavy downlighting, and it makes it pretty hard to tell if he actually put on any real muscle mass at all. And the fourth thing is that he was possibly using testosterone replacement therapy while in jail, which wouldn't be that crazy because if hormone therapy was prescribed to him by a legitimate doctor, they would have to let him continue his treatment even while locked up. So all in all, what you should be taking away from Andrew Tate's time in prison is the life lesson we talked about earlier, and not that doing 7,141 push-ups in about 3 months is going to get you insanely jacked. Now, I've made a whole video about Andrew Tate's regular fitness routine, and I go over exactly why I think he's taking testosterone replacement therapy. So click that video to go check it out, and I'll see you there.